sick.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind?
That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It is like being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan that'll cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when you run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do, it's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and once again, welcome back to the Grand Prix World Series. We have returned from our Christmas break, and we are set to get back to action once again at the Pannonia Grand Prix. My name is Topher Smith, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you yet another Grand Prix in Season 3 of the Grand Prix World Series. And heading into this one, Pascal Wehrlein came away from his home Grand Prix to lead the League 2 driver standings. That's where we will kick off proceedings today. As Von Mattel head up first and second in the standings, Wehrlein ahead of Ericsson on 106 and 103 points respectively. Tatiana Calderon is putting together a consistent campaign to be third in the standings at the moment on 98 points in the NASCAR Lola. Brendan Hartley is fourth in the Pacific on 85 ahead of Mick Schumacher, who's doing a part campaign at the moment, having come late to the party, but he is now up to 79 points in fifth place and could rise even higher in the next few Grand Prix. Jack Aitken is sixth in the Force India on 61 ahead of Alexander Rossi on 58, Kimi Sato on 53, Lucas Di Grassi on 49 and Takuma Sato on 40. That is your top 10 heading into today's League 2 Pannonia Grand Prix. Now for the League 2 race today, there are no driver changes to make any note of, so we will head straight to the grid for today's race. And it is a Von Mattel 1-2, much the same as in the driver standings, but it is Marcus Ericsson who is on pole ahead of Pascal Wehrlein by 0.3 of a second. A great performance by Ericsson to take pole position for today's race. Gary Paffett continuing his strong form to put his Ram third ahead of Raffaele Marcello in the Force India. He's really showing to be strong in the Grand Prix World Series at the moment since he filled in for Jerome D'Ambrosio. Mick Schumacher is fifth in the lead MasterCard Lola ahead of Oliver Rowland in the Sax Speed, getting himself back up into the high reaches of the grid. Tatiana Calderon seventh ahead of Mike Conway, putting in a really good performance in the Real. They need to get some points on the board today, and Conway will do everything he can from eighth on the grid. Kimi Sato, our race winner in Fuji, will start ninth today ahead of Jack Aitken in the Force India, 1.2 seconds off the pace of Marcus Ericsson's pole time. Row 6 will be an all-Brazilian affair with Sergio Sette Câmara ahead of Lucas Di Grassi in the Zack Speed, Alexander Rossi 13th ahead of Alan McNish, Nelson Piquet Jr. and Mirko Bortolotti, the two Dams Viant drivers, share 15th and 16th. Brendan Hartley, one of our championship contenders, another disappointing qualifying performance from the Kiwi, and he will look to move forward and score some points today. Takuma Sato 18th ahead of Christian Lundgaard and Jaime Alguersuari, the two Coloni starting together on the grid. And at the back, Callum Ilott, Dan Ticktum, Luciano Becchetta, Andre Lotterer, Jake Dennis and Fabio Lima. The bottom three there, Lotterer, Dennis and Lima, all setting identical times. It's just a shame that was for the bottom of the grid today. But we look ahead to our first race of the day here in Pannonia, and to take you through the action, it's over to Tom Cairns.
It's time for the race here in Pannonia in League 2. Can Marcus Ericsson and Pascal Wehrlein push Von Mattel ever closer to promotion to League 1? The 5 red lights are coming on now. When they get extinguished, we'll be racing for the first time in Pannonia in Hungary. It's lights out, and away we go. The Von Mattels get off the line fine, but it's Ericsson who's in front of Wehrlein as they head towards the first corner. So Ericsson is in front before they get to turn 1. Wehrlein is in second place. It's Gary Paffett in the Ram in third, ahead of the two MasterCard Lolas of Tatiana Calderon and Mick Schumacher. And Oliver Rowland in the Zack Speed is in 6th position, ahead of Marcello, Kimi Sato, Sette Câmara and Conway. So they seem to be getting through fine. No incidents as far as we know. It's a very new racetrack for these drivers, so they're just finding their feet round the track here. And so Ericsson continues on ahead of Verline. And going into the round, as far as the championship is concerned, just 3 points separating the two in favour of Pascal Verline. Although Tatiana Calderon is waiting in the wings, as are the likes of Brendan Hartley and Mick Schumacher, with there being only 6 rounds left in this championship. And then we are seeing a move here from Mick Schumacher, almost on his teammate Tatiana Calderon, although that didn't quite come off in the end. So they continue on their way, 49 laps it is for this race, 75% of a Formula 1 Grand Prix distance. And we are seeing a move from Pascal Verline going for it on his teammate Marcus Ericsson. Is there going to be a change of lead into turn 1? Ericsson was able to resist. And Gary Puffer is right in the fray here as he looks to get his nose in front of the two von Metalls, who've been in superb form so far this season. We've just seen a few drivers running wide a little bit into turn 1 and getting away with it. So the configuration they're racing on is 4.7 kilometres, 18 turns in total. And there is Rafael Marcello, and I think there's not been a change in positions. I was almost looking at Rowland. I think, is that a von Metall being overtaken? No, it's not. It's the Zach Speed of Oliver Rowland, who's in 6th position. We go back to Pascal Verline, who's in front of Gary Paffett. He's still chasing after Ericsson for the race lead. The gap is what is now a quarter of a second. There's still no way through at the moment as Mick Schumacher looks to get a move done on Calderon. Can't do it there. He tried that last time. It didn't come off in the end. And now we're looking at Alexander Rossi, who's fending off Alain Benish, who's been off the pace this time around compared to how he was in Hockenheim. He's hoping to make up for that in the race. Ram, who have been in good form in recent races. Gary Paffett getting on the podium in Brands Hatch. 2 races go. And the following round in Hockenheim, they came away with a 4th and 5th place. And we've just seen someone trying to make a move there. And I think Paffett is in front of Verline now. So Gary Paffett in the Ram is up to 2nd place ahead of the German. Great overtake there from Paffett. We're going to see an overtake, I think. I think that's because Pascal Verline went for a move on Ericsson. And Paffett took advantage of an open door at turn 2. And he got past the von Metall. So Gary Paffett in a von Metall sandwich now in 2nd place. And are we going to see him go for the lead on Ericsson? It seems to be that overtaking is proving to be a little tricky at the moment for the drivers. Hopefully we'll see a bit more later on in the race. Some will be going on a 2-stop strategy. Others will go on a 1. And Marcello getting through on Rowland now. And that's a change for position. And that's him through into 6th place. Force India, who are another one of those that had a good race in Hockenheim, with Marcello and his teammate Jet Aiken coming home in 6th and 7th places respectively. So they are aiming for a late push for promotion. As far as the team's championship is concerned, von Metall and Mascar Lola are looking very, very strong for promotion. Whereas the battle for the 3rd and final spot is likely to go down to the wire at Laguna Seca. There is Ericsson coming around to complete lap number 3. And he's ahead of Paffett by approximately half a second. And we are seeing a problem for Oliver Rowland, who is running in 7th place and is going to be pulling out of this race after only 3 laps. It's a shame there for the Brit, who is having another good race. But it's a premature exit for the Brit, who pulls off the track. Not quite sure what the problem is yet, but we'll find out in a second. But there is the first retirement of the Lead 2 Pannonia Grand Prix. And it's a gearbox problem for the Zach Speeds driver. And that's a body blow there to Zach Speeds' chances in their push for promotion as well. Lucas Di Grassi, the other driver left in the race, is in 13th position behind Brendan Hartley. There is Paffett, still in front of Verline and chasing after Ericsson. The Mastercard Lolas have not exactly been on the same pace as the Fonmatels in qualifying. They're in a tussle of their own with Calderon ahead of Schumacher. And I wonder if there'll be a team gain here, whether Calderon may let Schumacher go through here and chase after the Fonmatels. But now we're looking at Pascal Verline, who gets into the slipstream of Paffett. Are we going to see a change of position here? Verline desperate to get back into second place here. Up the inside of the Ram. And he's back through into second place goes Pascal Verline. An important overtake done there. And the next man he'll be going after is Ericsson. And we are seeing Jack Aiken drop back behind Brendan Hartley. Doesn't look like he's nursing a problem. It's just a genuine overtake that Hartley had pulled off on him at turn 2. Now Paffett will just want to stay in touch with the Fonmatels. I don't know for certain what strategy he is on, but we'll find out later on. There's Kamir Sato in the dome, who's running in 9th place, ahead of the Dams Vion of Nelson Piquet Jr., who's having another good race since his return to the Grand Prix World Series at Brands Hatch. His teammate Mirko Bortolotti is outside the top 15 as we speak. And tussling going on there between Hartley and Aiken. Behind Aiken is Lucas Di Grassi. And then it's Alexander Rossi and Alan McNish. Begin lap 6, and Ericsson's still continuing to lead the way ahead of his teammate as Mick Schumacher looks to get a move completed on Calderon, but he's not exactly alongside to get the move completed, and that might open the door for the Force India of Marcello to go through, but he can't quite go through just yet. Calderon is 7 seconds off the lead. You'll surely want to let Schumacher go through here. Round 11 of the championship is Pannonia. After we have raced here, we go to Valencia in Spain, which will be the last European round of the season. It's off to South America. Go to Buenos Aires in Argentina, Curitiba in Brazil, San Carlos in Venezuela, and it's off to North America for the season finale at Laguna Seca. I'm sure there'll be something up for grabs in that final round of Season 3 in both Leagues 1 and 2. This is the League 2 race. The League 1 race will be coming up later on. And there's an engine problem for Marcus Ericsson, the race leader. The Swede is out after 6 laps. And that's a damaging blow to his title chances. And it's a dent to Fonmatel's promotion push as well. Two races in a row that Marcus Ericsson is not going to be finishing. And we are just looking further back. I think we've just seen an overtake from Mick Schumacher on his teammate Tatiana Calderon into turn 1. And he's got through. No problem there. So he's got through at last. He's going to be going up another place in a moment because Marcus Ericsson is going to be pulling off the track. Ericsson is going to be the second driver to retire from this race. It's good news for Mastercard Lola as they look to close in on their rivals for the Teams Championship in League 2. But Ericsson is going to be touring into retirement. He's failed to finish on quite a number of occasions this season. He just needs to be very careful. He's almost becoming a bit of an obstacle for the other drivers, but he's off the track now. Marcus Ericsson retires for the 5th time this season. It's not exactly what he needed at this stage of the campaign. And with Calderon running in 4th position at the moment and Mick Schumacher in 3rd place, they're going to be closing in most certainly. I think as it stands, Calderon will go in front of Ericsson. And should Mick Schumacher finish on the podium, he'll close to within 9 points of the Swedish driver. Now Marcus Ericsson, who started the race on pole position, is not going to be finishing. At least he'll come away with a point, so in actual fact, should Mick Schumacher finish where he is, it'll be 10 points between him and Ericsson. Now we can see a Coloni of Christian Lundgaard, who's in 15th position behind Alan McNish, and behind him is Mirko Bortolotti and the Dans Fayon. There we can see Andre Lotterer pulling off an overtake there as Bortolotti runs wide at turn 3. He's able to stay on the circuit. It's lap 8. Just the one von Mattel left in this one. Oh, there's an overtake there from what looks like Jack Aiken on Brendan Hartley. That was a brilliant overtake there from the Force India driver, and he's got through into the top 10 now. So both Force Indias are in the top 10, which is going to please team manager Ed Spencer. I'm sure he'll be very, very happy with how his team has been getting on this campaign compared to Season 2. And now we're looking at Mike Conway in the Real, who's having the race of his life so far in P7, which is very encouraging for Ed Hunter, as his team have only picked up 2 points all season. And boy, could they do with a result today. We're looking at Rafael Marcello, who's right behind Calderon now in the battle for 4th position. Marcello cannot get through, and so he'll have to wait back for a little longer. And we are seeing a slow-moving Coloni of Jaime Alguersuari, who's going to be retiring yet again. It's been a very difficult campaign for the Coloni team, as Alguersuari pulls off the track with a rear suspension failure. So that's another non-finish to be added to his season. Jaime Alguersuari, that's, if you were to include him pulling out in the last couple of laps in Brands Hatch, that'll be the 5th non-finish he's had this season. He didn't compete in the first race because he initially was serving as a reserve driver. He's now in the car in place of Marcus Armstrong. Right on board with Gary Paffett, who's nearly 3 seconds off the lead. I'm sure he'll be playing the long game. And given how quickly Mick Schumacher is pulling away from his teammate, I don't think it's going to be too long before he catches up to Paffett. The gap between the two is 6 seconds. So keep an eye on the gap. Marcello in 5th place still. And we're looking at Mike Conway up the inside there of Sergio Sette Camera. Doesn't get through that time, but he'll be back for more, that's for certain. Now with Verline in the race lead. He's got the fastest lap as we speak. Marcus Owens has got the point for pole position, which cannot be taken whatever happens. Now if it was to remain as it is, von Mattel will get 27 points, as will Mastercard Layla, with Schumacher in 3rd and Calderon in 4th. Therefore the gap will be the same as it was before the race had started. 22 points that is. And they'll still pull further away from the likes of Pacific, Dome, Zaxpeed and Force India. It's just a matter of when von Mattel and Mastercard Layla will get promoted, as opposed to if they will. Von Mattel have 4 wins to their name, Mastercard Layla have 3. Pacific, who have had a fairly decent reliability record this season. 3rd place in the standings. They've got one car in the top 10 at the moment, which is Sergio Sette Camera in 6th place. His teammate Brendan Hartley, who went into this round 4th in the Drivers' Championship. It's just outside the points in P11. 3 drivers out of the race so far. Jaime Alguersuari, Marcus Ericsson and Oliver Rowland. Now, should the positions remain as they are, looking at Force India at the moment, with Marcello in 5th and Aiken in 10th, they'll get 11 points for that. They all move in front of Sax Speed and don't. They'll go up to 4th place in the championship standings. So they'll go on to 96 points. But with Von Mattel and Moscow scoring heavy as well, and pull further away. So the gap will be at the moment 140 points, which is more than the equivalent of 3 maximum scores. Pascal Wehrlein in P1, 3.3 seconds clear over Gary Paffett, and now we'll see Mike Conway still not able to get find a way through on the Pacific as Sergio sets the camera. This is a very encouraging race so far from Mike Conway. Dan Tipton is outside the top 15 as we speak. We're not too far away from pit stops. There is Wehrlein in P1. He's aiming for another good result as Sato gets a move completed on Mirko Bortolotti. And that's a genuine change for position. Goes up into 16th place. Just looking at the standings as far as we know. I think I've lost what I was about to say, to be honest with you. It'll come back to me at some point. But Conway is still not able to find a way past Sete Camera. We'll probably wait for the pit stops. That's probably the next best thing for him. There's Gary Paffett running in 2nd place. Going through turn 1. And Marcello still trying to find a way past Calderon as they head into turn 1. Nothing done there. Wehrlein kicking on now. Don't know for certain whether he's on a 2-stop or a 1-stop. We should find out soon enough. Now the 1-stop was the way to go at Hockenheim, but is it going to be different over here? Well, Jack Aiken has just completed a move on Kamiya Sato to go up into 9th place. Nelson Piquet Jr. running in 8th in the Dans Vion, chasing Mike Conway in the Real. Now Real, who have only scored 2 points so far this season. Can Conway bring the car home and get some much needed points for Ed Hunter's team? Now on lap 14, we're looking at Mick Schumacher on his own in 3rd place, gradually reducing the gap to Paffett. You can see that Schumacher is already nearly 8 seconds clear, or 8 seconds clear of Calderon. So it tells you something about the pace he's setting at the moment compared to his teammate. And Hartley is through on Aiken because Aiken has come into the pits. Aiken is the first to pit in out of anyone in this race at the end of lap 13. There is Mick in 3rd place. Moscow Lola looking very, very good for another good haul of points here. Now, as far as Von Mattel are concerned, they came into this round having finished on the podium in each of the last 8 races. As far as Pascal Wehrlein is concerned, he's finished in the top 5 in each of the last 5 races. Some consistency there from the German, who didn't have a lot go his way at the beginning of the campaign, but the last 5 rounds have really he's really come into his zone, and we have seen Marcello come into the pits a lap after Jet Aiken, as we see Mike Conway still tussling with Sergio Sette Camera, and he cannot get through. I'm interested to know how much time you need for a pit stop round here. There's Jet Aiken at the back in 23rd place. His teammate Marcello Regara in front of him, that's for certain. There's Aiken in, I think he was in 23rd, but I think he must be ahead of Kamiya Sato now, or Takuma Sato rather. Sato came into the pits. Well, I say Kamiya Sato, he's just pulled off the circuit with a problem. Another retirement for Dome. They have not been in the best of form in recent races, and it's only just got worse. It's a puncher for the Japanese. That's another driver gone from this race. There's Paffett in P2, ahead of Schumacher, who is now 10 seconds clear. As we see Alan McNish pulling off as well. He's also out of the race. That's the Ram gone. Now, what issue has McNish picked up? It's a gearbox problem for the Scot. And I think Brendan Hartley's come into the... Is Hartley in the pits, or is it Lucas Di Grassi? It's Lucas Di Grassi that's in the pits now, in the Sax Speed. As is Christian Lundgaard. And we are seeing Dan Tixon going for a move on Callum Ilott. It's for P11 now, with all the pit stops that are going on as we speak. And believe it or not, Jet Aiken has just posted a new fastest lap of the race. So he's clearly able to find some pace on his new tyres. The undercut could be working very, very strong round here. And that'll be something for Pascal Wehrlein to keep in mind for later on. And now we are seeing Takuma Sato start behind Christian Lundgaard. And it's going to be another tough race from here on in for Dome. They've had a decent first season in the Grand Prix World Series, but it hasn't really gone to plan for them in the last few rounds. The race leader Pascal Wehrlein has come into the pits though. He was 4.5 seconds clear of Paffett before he came in. Now, where is Wehrlein going to filter back out though? Because this is going to be really important that he does not get held up in traffic. There is Lotterer ahead of Marcello. And I think Wehrlein is safe from those behind. How far is he behind Conway? We'll find out as he goes through the first sector. No, he's not 15 seconds off the lead, that's for certain. So we're just waiting for the gaps to update. Piquet Jr. in the pits for Dans Fayon. As Marcello gets through on the Andrea Moda of Andre Lotterer, and he gets through no problem. And Pascal Wehrlein is 23 seconds off the lead. Now, he was 4.5 seconds behind Paffett before he came in. So I think you need at the very minimum 28 seconds or 29 seconds, ideally 30, for a pit stop. But Wehrlein's got some clear air ahead of him now, to perhaps get the fastest lap point back from Jet Aiken. And now we're seeing Paffett coming into the pits at the end of lap 17. And Mick Schumacher is also coming in. There's Calderon. It will go into the lead of the race as Sette Camera and Conway come in. There's Piquet Jr. behind the Carlin of Fabio Lima. Not able to get through yet. Now we'll look to see how the pit stops have played out, involving those who have just come in. As you can see, Dan Tixon getting through on Marcello, or he's in front of Marcello at the moment. But Sete Camera's behind this lot. He's ahead of Conway. As Marcello gets through on Dan Tixon now. And looking at Gary Puffett, is in third place behind Verline on track. He's now 7 seconds off him. We go back to Tatiana Calderon, who's running in the lead temporarily, unless she is on the one stop. But we'll look to see whether Pascal Verline will get the fast set point back now that he's on the fresh tyres. So over the line they come, and Verline is now the holder of the fastest lap. So the point go back in favour of him. I think Calderon is trying something different, hence why her pace at the beginning of the race maybe not as strong as what Mick Schumacher's was. But here is Rafael Marcello trying to get through on Callum Ilott for 8th position, but he cannot get through. He's stuck behind the Brit as we speak. Go back to Pascal Verline, who's less than a couple of seconds behind Calderon. And Marcello is now through on Callum Ilott for 8th place on circuit. Mirko Bortolotti is yet to come into the pits, as has Alexander Rossi and Tatiana Calderon. And Ilott's been overtaken again, this time by Sergio Sete Camera. Now Ilott is on the one stop, it seems. Whilst we have a look at Lucas Di Grassi, who's stuck behind Jake Dennis in the battle for 15th position. And now Verline is up the inside of Calderon into turn 1, but he's not able to get through yet. I don't think it's going to be too long before he finally gets through at last. He's into the slipstream. Does he pull out alongside? Yes, he does. And Verline takes back the lead of the Lead 2 Pannonia Grand Prix. And Calderon had no answer to that whatsoever. Gary Puffett in 3rd place. And Di Grassi trying to get through on Dennis. See up the inside now. He's through at last, is the Brazilian. Oh, but there's been a collision up ahead though. And Jack Aiken is off the circuit. Now, I don't know what's happened there between the drivers then. Aiken's come back on rather dangerously. Now, I think there's been a concertina collision between, I think, Nelson Piquet Jr., Mike Conway, and Jack Aiken. Oh, yeah, that's Piquet up the inside there, which didn't work, and sent Conway into Jack Aiken. We'll wait to see what the stewards say on that, but I think if anyone is going to take the blame for it, it's Nelson Piquet Jr. It's a 10-second time penalty and a back of the grid drop for the next race in Valencia for the Brazilian. And for the unsafe rejoin, Jack Aiken has also been penalised, but it's only 5 seconds. These are subject to appeal. It's certainly not good news for both Piquet Jr. and Aiken. Whilst we see Fabio Lima in 17th place, ahead of Christian Lundgaard, Jack Aiken. And behind them is Takuma Sato, and the last driver in this race, Luciano Piquetta, who we've hardly spoken about today. It's a body blow there for Jack Aiken as far as his race is concerned. And certainly also for Mike Conway. Because he was running a very strong race up until he had that collision with the Brazilian. And now we're seeing PK Jr. go for a move on Dan Tixon this time. And it's certainly not helping Mike Conway, who's been held up by him, and also Dan Tixon. Lima being overtaken by Aiken now. Now we've seen Bortolotti being passed by Marcello. Next is Sergio Sette Camera, who's having a very, very strong race today. There's Calderon ahead of Puffett. The battle for second place. It won't be too long before we see Calderon in the pits. We're on lap 21. Puffett, who's now behind Calderon in the battle for P2. Verline, who's just run wide on the exit of turn 3. 4.5 seconds in the lead. Looking good for win number 3 of the campaign. He won in Istanbul. He had also won in Misano. As it stands, he'll be extending his lead in the championship. And Calderon, as it stands, will be in second place. But we've seen a few overtakes happening at the back of the field. 3 different changes of the position there. It looked like Lundgaard got through on the Andrea Moda. Jake Dennis, I think it was. Now Sette Camera is through on Bortolotti into 8th place. Next one ahead of him is Rafael Marcello, who's chasing after the one-stopping Alexander Rossi. And we've just seen Dan Tixon go down a few positions. I'm not sure what's happened to him. It won't be too long before we see him in the pits, I think. He's in 14th place now, is the Brit. Mike Conway is looking to find a way through on PK Jr. And Puffett is stuck behind Calderon now, and this is actually helping Mick Schumacher a little bit. But there is Conway further back, looking to get through on PK Jr. Can he brake a little bit later and get past? The answer is no. This is not going to please Ed Hunter, who is so desperate for points. Puffett is still behind Calderon in the battle for P2 as they come through the winding sections of this racetrack of Pannonia. No way through yet. I don't think it's going to be too long before we see Puffett complete the overtake. If not, wait until Calderon ducks into the pit lane. So they are coming round now. And Calderon's staying out there for another lap. The Puffett is up the inside. Well, for the moment, and he's had to tuck back in. Perhaps the Ram is not having the straight line speed that it needs to have. Looking further back to see Mike Conway behind Nelson PK Jr. Still no way through. And Nelson PK Jr. He's under attack from Mike Conway still. And Lucas Di Grassi will be fancying his chances as well, as he's behind the duo. And you can see the two Carlins going into combat for 20th place. Getter behind Lima. And Verline on his own in the race lead, nearly 9 seconds clear of second place Tessina Calderon as he approaches the end of lap 24. No one's really attacking him at the moment, so Verline can just afford to take it easy from here on in until the checker flag. Before Mattel's 5th win of the season and in the Grand Prix World Series altogether. So we are now at half race distance. There's Lundgaard in 15th place, just ahead of Jack Aiken. He's beginning to come back through the field. He has that 5-second time penalty to be applied to his time at the end of the race. And we are seeing PK Jr. go for it on Kalmila into turn 1. It's a 4-car battle for the last point, and PK Jr. is able to get the move done. He's up into 10th place. Now Mike Conway will be so desperate to get through as Ilott is on the 1 stop. Now Paffett is still stuck behind Calderon, and you can see Mick Schumacher in the background closing in all the time. Vitally important that Paffett gets through here, as we see Callum Ilott be, well, almost looked like he was about to be overtaken by Mike Conway. But he's still hanging in there, is Ilott. What I will say is that LaRousse have had a decent reliability record. I think out of all the teams in the Grand Prix World Series this season, they seem to have the best reliability record out of everyone. Looking at the number of non-finishes they have had, they've managed to get both cars to the checker flag in each of the last 5 rounds. Only 4 non-finishes to their name from a possible 20. And at the back of the pack, Fabio Lima is nursing an issue, and his race is about to end around about half race distance. He pulls off the circuit without causing any drama to the other drivers, and that is his race over. And that's the 6th driver to pull out of this one. Engine failure for the Swiss. We want to go back to the battle for second position because Calderon is still under attack from Paffett, and Mick Schumacher is now only 3 seconds behind the Ram. You can see there Calderon and Paffett going through and Schumacher closing in. You can see Lima's car pulling off or being pushed away by the marshals there. He had to go across the circuit to be craned away. But there is Verline in the race lead. 12 seconds clear now over his nearest challenger. And we see Marcello, who's behind Brendan Hartley in the battle for 5th place. Brendan Hartley, who is yet to stop in this race, I think, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think he's stopped at all, so this is actually a different strategy that Hartley's doing compared to a lot of the others have done. And it's paying off for him so far. There we can see Jack Aiken in the Force India going for it on Dan Ticktum into turn 1. He's not going to be able to get the move done this time. There is Verline. On lap 27. And through the last turn. And that's lap 27 completed. And we'll see how Paffett is getting on behind Calderon, but there is Marcello, who's still not going to be able to pull off a move there on Hartley, unfortunately. There's Pascal Verline, riding on board. And Mick Schumacher's less than 2 seconds behind Paffett. So Calderon has actually been doing his teammate a favour in closing in on the Brit. Still yet to come into the pits. How long will it be before she decides to do that? I thought you'd be around about now. We'll wait and see. Within the next few laps, Sato coming through there. And Jack Aiken is in the pits for the second time. He may decide to go for the fastest lap again. Although he may end up going down a lap by the time he rejoins the circuit. There is Verline, who is coming round to complete another lap. And there is Jack Aiken, who's just come out of the pits, just ahead of him. Now he'll be reluctant to let him go, but he'll be on the fresher tyres, will Jack Aiken. We are seeing Nelson Piquet Jr., who had a fairly decent race up until this point, minus the incident he had with Conway and Aiken. And he's going to be pulling out of the Pannonia Grand Prix, and he'll be starting at the back in the next race in Valencia to add salt into the wounds. It's a shame there for Phil Kincher's team. See Mirko Bortolotti's running in, well, he's now 8th place on circuit, but his teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. is out with gearbox trouble. Aiken is still in front of Verline on circuit. He's on the fresher tyres after all, so Verline, I think, will just be happy to just wait back before he thinks about lapping the Force India. Kessler coming in the sole surviving Carlin. He'll be hoping just to get to the end of the race. And there we can see a three-way battle for second now, as Schumacher's right on the gearbox of Paffett. Calderon has done his teammate a massive favour here, because Paffett was so far in front of Schumacher after the first round of pit stops, and Calderon, with her being on the one stop, has been holding up Paffett since Paffett had caught up to her. And Schumacher now fancies a go to get through here on that 30. Calderon in second place still at the moment, and second place could still even be on the cards for her today. And if anything happens to Pascal Wehrlein up front, she could possibly take her second Grand Prix World Series win. There's Lundgaard, who's up the inside of Eilert into turn 1, and that's good enough for him to move up into the 9th place. Eilert is still in the points at the moment in 10th, but it's unlikely he'll stay there. There's Calderon running in 2nd, Paffett in 3rd, and Schumacher in 4th. When are we going to be seeing the Colombian come into the pits? Well, I can tell you that Pascal Wehrlein is into the pits himself from the race lead. And Marcello getting through on Eilert for 10th place. And Calderon is staying out there, as are Paffett and Schumacher. And Wehrlein will rejoin in 4th position. At least it's another opportunity for Wehrlein to go for the fastest lap again, just to further cement that point. And now we're looking at Brendan Hartley, who's holding up his teammate Sergio Sette camera now. And there is your race leader in your picture. Tatiana Calderon is still ahead of Gary Paffett and Mick Schumacher. Now, I wonder if she may try to go to the end, but I don't think she will. She will need to come in at some point. On that 31. Come on. Holding up Puffett, holding up Schumacher. So coming round to complete another lap as Lundgaard gets overtaken by Rafael Marcello. Marcello goes up into 9th place ahead of the Dane. And Gary Puffett pits in from 2nd, so he has had enough being stuck behind Calderon, as is Mick Schumacher for that matter. Calderon remains out there in the race lead, but for how long? There is Hartley in 4th place. Well, it's now 3rd position because of the pit stops. He's still yet to come in. There's Pascal Wehrlein in 2nd. Now, he'll be thinking, how long is Calderon going to be staying out there for? Well, I can't imagine for too much longer, but Wehrlein's going to be on much better tyres than what Calderon is on. I can tell you that, and he's got 18 laps to catch her. And he passed her rather easily last time around. Now, we're interested to know what Calderon's fuel gauge is. I think she's coming into the pits this time. You can tell by the way she's ducking in there. So, at the end of lap 32, Tatiana Calderon comes into the pits. And Pascal Wehrlein will go back into the lead. Now, what about Brendan Hartley? Is he going to go up into 2nd place, or is he ducking into the pits as well? Because he will not want to hold up Sergio sets the camera for too much longer. No, he's coming into the pits. And also into the pit lane is Alexander Rossi for the first time in this race too. Or 3, I should say. Now Schumacher has got in front of Gary Puffett. I don't know whether he did it in the pit stops or whether he did it on circuit, but he's now in front of the Brit. And Calderon, through all that, because of Schumacher and Puffett battling on circuit, I think, she's able to keep hold of 3rd place on circuit, which will be a net 2nd. Because I can imagine Sese Camera will be in the pits again before this race is over. And Brendan Hartley's back out in 10th place behind Alexander Rossi. I think Rossi got ahead of him in the stops. So that's left with Brendan Hartley with more work to do than desired. But it's falling into place for Pascal Wehrlein at the moment. He's looking good for his 3rd win of the campaign. No such problems for him at the moment, but we're looking at Mick Schumacher, well, Calderon I should say, who we're focusing on. But she's got Mick Schumacher right on her tail. Desperate for a move done, Sete Camera comes into the pits from 2nd, so this is the battle for P2 now. Schumacher up the inside of Calderon, it's turn 1, can't go through yet. Cannot make the mistake, oh no, Puffett is up the inside of Schumacher, so they go into turn 2, he can't get through either. This battle is very much raging on now. And Wehrlein can just breathe easy up front. And Lundgaard is into the pits, as is Eilert, as is Tixon. And Mike Conway will go up a few positions, and he may go up another one here, ahead of Jake Dennis into turn 1, and he does it. So Mike Conway is back into the points, which he so richly deserves, given the pace he's shown in qualifying and in the race so far. Back with Wehrlein once more. We didn't want to be going back to the battle for 2nd place between Calderon, Schumacher and Puffett. 15 laps to go in this League 2 Pannonia Grand Prix. Round 11 of Season 3 of the Grand Prix World Series. We've got the League 1 race to come up, coming up later, so do stay tuned, do not go anywhere. And now we're looking at Paffett once more. Will not get through on Schumacher on this occasion. Marcello having another good race in the Force India again in 5th. You could say he's safe and sound from Setse camera. He's got a commanding gap over him. There's the two Moscow Lowers. As it stands, with them finishing 2nd and 3rd, that would give them 33 championship points. They would go on to 220. And with Von Mattel picking up only 27 points, they will go on to 236. So at least Moscow Lower closed the gap on them. But those two teams are very much destined for promotion this season, that's for sure. And one team who have had a good race as well are Pacific, with Sergio Setse Camera putting in one of his best drives of the season so far in 6th. And Brendan Hartley is coming out. And we've got Verline in the pits for the 3rd time. What's happened to Verline? Because it looks like he's carrying an issue. And he's gone into the pits. And it's an electrical issue for the German. When it was looking so comfortable for him, he is reluctant to come back into the pit lane to get the issue sorted out. And that hands the lead over to Tatiana Calderon. Now that is a shock. Verlaine will come back out in 4th position. With 14 laps left, he's got with it all to do. It's now a Marscard Lola 1 and 2, as it was in Hockenheim. That's a disappointment for Ewan Gale's Von Mattel team. But it's not over yet. Now, if Moscow Lower were to get 43 championship points, that'll put them on to 230. And Verlaine is now in 4th place, along with the pole position points at which they're going to get to. They're going to be on 223. So in actual fact, Moscow Lola are going to go in front of Von Mattel as it stands in the League 2 Teams Championship. And Mike Conway is in front of Mirko Bortolotti into 9th position. The last corner, Calderon still holding the lead, ahead of Mick Schumacher and Gary Paffett. Paffett has had another strong race today. He's going to push Ram nearer to those who are gunning for that last promotion spot, although Pacific, who are going to be coming away with a decent number of points compared to the likes of Dome, Zach Speed and Force India, although Force India are good and going to be getting 10 points with Marcello in 5th, but it's very unlikely that Jet Aiken's going to be coming away with anything because of the time penalty he's going to be serving. It may only be 5 seconds, but it could still prove to be costly for the Brit, who's shown some strong pace today, until that incident with Nelson Piquet Jr. and Mike Conway had cost him. We saw Mick Schumacher for a moment, but going back to the battle for 15th place as Bicchetto is holding up Dan Tictum. Tictum is going to be up the inside into turn number 1. And he is through on the Brit, who I think he's under Indian parents, under Italian ancestry. We saw a little bit of a lock-up from Alexander Rossi for a moment there. We're just going to have a quick replay to see what happened to him. Yeah, he just had a bit of a lock-up, did the American, and running wide as a result. He stayed on the circuit. On course for a fairly decent result is Rossi. In 7th place, he'll continue his run of finishes. He's finished the last 5 rounds, says Rossi. He's only failed to finish twice this campaign. 3 podium finishes. Unlikely he'll add to that today, but it'll still be a decent point score. The Larus are still very much in the fight for promotion as well. Well, I say very much. They're on 62 points. They were 39 off Pacific at the beginning of today. But there we see Takuma Sato in the sole surviving dome behind what looks like, I'm just looking to see whereabouts Takuma Sato is. Outside the top 15 is Sato in 17th place behind Luciano Piquetta. And he is through. And it looks like Andre Lotto's going to go through too. Carlin are so far off the pace at the moment. I wonder what Perry Brown, the team manager of that squad, must be thinking. Lap 38 completed, 11 to go. Pascal Wehrlein's not really closing down the gap as quickly as he needs to be. The gap is 12.9 seconds. Or at least that's the last time we saw it. I think the gap is now 12.8 as far as I can see on the graphic. That was the last thing they needed there, did Fomitar, was an electrical issue, and that's probably going to cost Wehrlein and the team the race win. Tessina Calderon, who's already won this season in Yongam, becoming the first female driver to win in the Grand Prix World Series. She could well become a 2-time race winner as it stands. She made the strategy work. The one-stop proved to be the way to go for her. And staying out as long as she has been. And she's maintaining a commanding gap over Mick Schumacher. If you were to look at the team or the Drivers' Championship as it stands now, Calderon will in fact go into the lead by, I believe, 4 points over Pascal Wehrlein. And with Mick Schumacher coming over in 2nd place, he'll go in front of Brendan Hartley. And he'll be within touch and distance of the likes of Wehrlein, Ericsson and Calderon, with 5 rounds to go. And it doesn't look like Wehrlein is going to be getting onto the podium, which would bring an end to Von Mittel's run of podium finishes unless something happens to any of the top 3 in the remaining laps. There is Calderon, pushing on in the Mastercard Lola. Go back, this is Mick Schumacher, doing a super job. He's already won twice, in Dijon, Burgoyne and in Hockenheim. To make it 4 podiums in a row. And looking at Wehrlein, who's 7 seconds behind Parfit. We've only got 9 laps left in this race. I wonder if Calderon's going to be coming up to bat markers in the closing laps. Should be hoping that she doesn't. Turn 4 there. As is Mick Schumacher, the gap between the two is 2.5 seconds as they have to go through the first sector of the course. And Verline's closing down the gap on Paffett all the time. So podium could still well be on, but the victory is long gone for him now. Like I say, anything can happen in the Grand Prix World Series, so do not take your eyes off it. I just want to say hats off to Mike Conway for a brilliant race despite the troubles he had earlier on. He's running in 9th place, which would be enough for Real to double the points score for the campaign. Now, Jack Aiken, who is running in 12th place, will have a 5-second time penalty added. As it stands, he would not lose a position. Say that Paffett and Verline's gap is 5.8 seconds. The podium is very much possible for Verline in the closing stages. I think even if he gets through on Paffett, he's not going to have enough time to get through on Schumacher, I'm afraid. Five and a half seconds is the gap now. Not a lot of time left in this one. As we see Sato look to get a move completed on Dan Tipton into turn 1. Can't quite do it there. Calderon's gap over Schumacher is 2.7 seconds, although it feels a little bit more than that. It's 2.8. Paffett is another 2.5 seconds off the German ahead. And Verline's close to within 5.1 seconds. 7 laps remaining. Ideally, Verline needs to take about a second off Paffett each lap before he can get a move completed on him. He's not got a lot of time to do it. Now Paffett is 5.5 seconds off the lead. Verline is close to within what is now 4.7. Not long left to go in the race. In Pannonia's first outing in the Grand Prix World Series, the first race it's been done. It's proved to be an interesting one. We have seen Season 4 calendar being drafted out, of which Pannonia is not on at the moment. The Grand Prix World Series is still young at the moment in terms of trying new places. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more continuity involved. Does its best to try and go to the best places possible. Calderon is very close to victory. As we go back to Paffett, who's now only 4.4 seconds ahead of Verline. Verline is continuing to close in. So just keep an eye on the gap between Paffett and Verline. And Verline is less than 4.1. So he was able to take another 4/10 out of the margin in the last sector alone. Watching further back, there is Schumacher running in second place. He will be happy with this result, and he'll be very happy for his teammate. Now we're seeing the Andrea Moda of Jake Dennis is running in last place right now behind Luciano Becchetta Andrea Moda, who are now under the eyes of Jake Sanson, who's previously the Dams Viance team boss. Ram are looking very good for another podium here, with Verline closing all the time. The gap now is less than 3.8. Now we want to see what the gap will be when they go through sets of 1 on this lap. And the gap is now 3.5 seconds, I believe, just looking at the on the margin there. And Lotto looks like he ran a little bit too deep there into the right-hander, but he got away with it. It's been another disappointing showing from Andrea Moda today. Considering where they were at the beginning of the campaign, they were so quick. And Sato is not able to get through on Dan Tidson right now. And Jake Dennis is trying to get through on Luciano Becchetta at the same turn. He can't do it either. Certainly not the easiest place to overtake is the Pannonia ring. And there's an engine point for Alexander Rossi, who is running in 8th place, and he is going to be out. What a shame for him. Pulls off the circuit. That allows Mike Conway to go through, Mirko Bortolotti will go through, and Lucas Di Grassi will go up into the points in 10th place. But it's the end of the road for Alexander Rossi, with only a handful of laps left. Disappointment for team boss Chris Hosey. It looks like he's going to be scoring nothing today, once more. And now we're looking at Jake Dennis, who still cannot get through on Luciano Becchetta. Now he just needs to watch out as well, because Tatiana Calderon will be coming up behind him very shortly. Will not want to get in the way of her, but luckily for him, Calderon does have a 3-second gap over Mick Schumacher, and the gap between Paffett and Verline is 2.6 seconds as they approach the end of lap 46. We'll see what the gap is when they cross over the line. 2.4 seconds is the margin now. I don't think Verline's going to have enough time to to even pass Paffett. He'll do well to catch up to him, but not actually pass him. And there is Mick Schumacher. .4 seconds clear over... So not 2.4, he's over 3 seconds clear of Paffett. And Paffett's got the gap down to 2.2. I think that at the end of sector 1, I want to see what the gap is when they go through sector 2. And there's Becchetta, who's still in front of Dennis there. And Verline is now less than 2.1, so he's run about 2 seconds off him. Got the gap, I think it's taking like another 10th or so out of the margin in sector 2. And now we are seeing Jake Dennis go for a move on Becchetta, but Calderon is closing in to lap these two. And they will not want to get in the way of Calderon, who's trying to put a lap on Dennis and Becchetta. And this is going to allow Schumacher and Paffett to close in. So at least Calderon gets through on Dennis at last, but should have lost time being stuck behind him. Will she get through on Becchetta? Perhaps at the next turn. It's now 1.7 between Calderon and Schumacher. She won't be too fussed about the gap, I think. She's now through on Paqueta, but she kind of had to fight her way through there. So it proved to be a little tricky. Between Puffett and Verline, it's less than 1.6. And now Schumacher is going to be held up behind Dennis and Paqueta in a moment. He'll be desperate to get through. Now, does he get through on Dennis? Not quite so there. I can tell you that Puffett is only 1.3 ahead of Verline, as Calderon is about to start the final lap now here in Pannonia. Superlative drive from the Colombian. And Mars Colella are going to go into the lead of the team's championship. And Tatiana Calderon is going to go into the lead of the League 2 Drivers' Championship as well. So it's going to be another 1-2 for Marco Lola. Doing so for the second race running. Now the gap between Puffett and Verline is 1.1 seconds. There's no way Verline's going to pass Puffett now, unless Puffett makes a mistake somewhere. So they go through sector 1, and it's 9/10. We'll go back to Calderon. She's less than 2 kilometres away, or just around about 2 kilometres away from the checker flag here. What a drive, what a performance. It's been a brilliant season so far, and it's about to get even better. And she's about to go into the lead of the Drivers' Championship for the first time in her Grand Prix World Series career. Tatiana Calderon rounds the last couple of corners. She's going to take her second Grand Prix World Series win. She wins the League 2 Pannonia Grand Prix with Mick Schumacher in second place. It's another 1-2 for Marcus Johansson's MasterCard Lola squad. Gary Puffett on the podium for the second time in 3 races. Pascal Verline, who should have taken the victory, has ended up in 4th place in the end for Fonmatel. Rafael Marcello 5th for Force India, ahead of Sergio Sette Camera. And it's Sette Camera's teammate Brendan Hartley who'll bring his Pacific home in 7th place. That's good news for Kevin McMullen's team, who will stay in 3rd place in the team's championship. And what a result for Mike Conway. Real get their best result of the season. 6 points for them. Mirko Bortolotti 9th, picking up his first Grand Prix World Series points. And Lucas Di Grassi getting the last point for Zach Speed in 10th. Jack Aiken 11th. His time penalty does not drop him down the order. Christian Lundgaard will be 12th for Coloni, ahead of Callum Aylott, Dan Titsum, Tsukuma Sato, Andre Lotterer, who will be the last drivers on the lead lap. Luciano Paqueta and Jake Dennis a lap down. But it's victory for Tatiana Calderon and for Marco Lola. They are looking ever nearer to promotion in League 1. Mick Schumacher second, ahead of Gary Puffett and Pascal Verline, who was only 6/10 behind the Brit at the checkered flag. Rafael Marcello 5th, ahead of the 2 Pacifics of Sergio Sette Camera and Brendan Hartley. Mike Conway brings Real's best result of the season in 8th, ahead of Mirko Bortolotti and Lucas Di Grassi in the points. Jack Aiken in 11th, even with his time penalty, ahead of Christian Lundgaard, Callum Aylott, Dan Titsum, Tsukuma Sato in 15th, ahead of Andre Lotterer, Luciano Paqueta and Jake Dennis with the rest of the finishers. Alexander Rossi classified in 19th. And then we've got Nelson Piquet Jr., Fabio Lima, Alan McNish, Camille Sato, Jaime Alguersuari, Marcus Ericsson and Oliver Olin not finishing. Pascal Verline got the point for the fast lap. The pole position point went to his teammate, Marcus Ericsson. Another strong result for Mastercard Lower again. And reliability issues have hit Von Mattel today. That's a body blow to them, but has still picked up maximum points. They picked up some decent points in their quest for promotion, but it's Mastercard Lola who have taken over leadership in the team's championship, as has Tatiana Calderon in the League 2 Drivers' Championship. I'll leave for Topher Smith to run down on the championship standings after Pannonia's first Grand Prix World Series race.
A fantastic victory there for Tatiana Calderon today, and that has made a massive boost not just for herself but for Mastercard Lola as far as her points are concerned. And in the driver standings, the female Colombian racer has shot to the top of the standings on 123 points, taking over the lead from Pascal Wehrlein, who drops to second on 119. Marcus Ericsson down to third on 104, and Mick Schumacher now on 97 points after his second place finish today. He's really getting himself into this title fight now. Brendan Hartley slipping away a little bit in fifth on 91 points. Jack Aitken is a further 30 behind Hartley at the moment. He's more or less well and truly out of this championship fight now. It looks like it will be between the top 5 in the standings now. Alexander Rossi still in the top 7 on 58 points, ahead of Kimi Sato on 53, Lucas Di Grassi on 50, and Gary Paffett has moved himself into the top 10 in the standings now on 43 points. A brilliant campaign he's putting together so far, and he's putting himself into the shop window for a seat in Season 4. As far as the team standings looks, Mastercard Lola is on top on 230 points, 7 ahead of Fonmetal on 223. It looks like those two will be the ones fighting for the championship in League 2. Pacific Grand Prix have slipped well and truly away from that fight for the title, but still looking to potentially get promotion here. They're 20 points ahead of Force India on 95, Dome on 93, Zaxby on 87, Ram on 77. It looks like any of those 5 teams could still potentially steal promotion as we look towards the bottom end of this championship. We'll keep a close eye to see how close and competitive that gets. LaRousse on 62 points in 8th, ahead of Andrea Moda on 59, and Coloni on 39, rounding out the top 10. Carlin are on 27 ahead of Damsfield on 20, and Real finally getting some more points on the board and up to 6 points overall. Ed Hunt, I'm sure, would want a lot more than that, but they can't say that they're not scoring any points at all. They will look forward to Season 4, though, and get themselves off the bottom of the table. But now we look ahead to League 1, and it is Scott Dixon who still leads the championship, our reigning champion and championship leader as it stands. 126 points for the Kiwi, ahead of Pato O'Ward in the Arrows. His second win of the season in Hockenheim has moved him on to 87 points, and he's getting himself into the thick of this title fight as well. Nick de Vries on 82 points, a third ahead of Will Power in the Leighton House on 64. Roman Grosjean 5th in the Manor on 60, ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa on 56. Sebastian Buemi is 7th on 52, ahead of Alex Lynn, Paul Di Resta and Helio Castroneves, still in the top 10 on 37 points. Looking at the team, Simtech leads away on 162 points, but only 9 ahead of Leighton House as it stands on 153, and Minardi a further 7 points behind on 146. This is close between those 3 for the championship of League 1. Arrows are 4th at 156, only 1 point ahead of Mana at the moment. It's close for 4th between those 2. Super Guri on 78, ahead of HRT on 72, Prost on 61, Onyx on 55, and BAR on 29. That is your top 10. And bring up the rear and risking demotion into League 2 for next season. AGS on 23, Midland on 14, and 40 Corsi on 6. They will do everything they can to score some points and keep themselves in League 1 for Season 4. Now, just a couple of driver changes to bring you for the League 1 races today. There's been a bit of a switcheroo at Sam Hall's Manor team, as Kamui Kobayashi has returned to a race seat, but instead of taking back the seat that Lopez filled in for at Hockenheim, he has come back in place of Roman Grosjean. So Manor's race lineup, potentially for the rest of the season, will be Kamui Kobayashi and Jose Maria Lopez. Sam Hall having a bit of a play around with his driver lineup to see what works best, and Grosjean, as a result, sitting out today's Pannonia Grand Prix. Will he return next time out in Valencia? We'll see what Sam Hall decides to do after today's race. And at the Midland team, Alex Johnston has decided to put Naoki Yamamoto back into a race seat in place of Rio Haryanto, potentially evaluating his options for drivers for next season, seeing how Yamamoto gets on after a few races on the sidelines. We'll keep an eye on his progress today. Now, looking at the grid for today's League 1 Pannonia Grand Prix, it is a Minardi still on pole, but this time Antonio Felix da Costa leads the way as he puts it on pole position by 0.3 of a second to Will Power in the Leighton House. Power putting in a strong qualifying lap there for the front row. Jose Maria Lopez showing strongly again in the Manor as he takes third on the grid ahead of our championship leader Scott Dixon. Nick de Vries a bit off the pace in qualifying. He's half a second behind his teammate in 5th, ahead of Luke Browning in the Simtek, showing once again why he deserves a grid on the Grand Prix World Series grid. Kamui Kobayashi 7th in the man, ahead of Robin Frimes in the Super Guri. Marco Wittmann 9th in the Prost, ahead of Sebastian Buemi in the Leighton House in 10th. It's an all arrows row 6 as Daniel Youngandea outqualifies Pato Ward, who's second in the championship at the moment. Nicholas Latifi in a BAR ahead of Alex Lynn in the HRT. 15th is Sebastian Bourdais ahead of Sean Galale, Nick Yellowly and Tony Froiko. Jean-Eric Verne there in the Prost. He's had an almighty return to the grid so far in the Prost, but a disappointing qualifying in Pannonia today. He will be looking to move forward and score some points today. And Paul Di Resta, a podium sitter earlier on in the season, lines up 20th for today's race. Naoki Yamamoto on his return is the lead Midland in 21st, ahead of Colton Herter in the AGS, Felipe Nasr in the Midland, then the 240 courses of Roy Nassani and Jehan Daravala 24th and 25th, and Alex Palou rounds out the grid, having taken a back of the grid penalty from last time out. Well, it is a Minardi on pole once again, but will reliability play a factor here today? There's only one way to find out. Let's head down to the start of this race, where Tom Cairns is waiting to take you through the action.
It's League One's turn to take to the track here in Pannonia. Can Minardi bounce back after that disastrous outing in Hockenheim, with Nick de Vries and Antonio Costa pulling to the sidelines at the same time? The 5 lights are on now. When they extinguish, we'll be racing here in Pannonia for 49 laps. It's lights out, and away we go. Antonio Costa gets off the line very, very well. But watch out, Jose Maria Lopez has got off to a very good start as well, as is Scott Dixon. But Will Parrott has got off to a shocker from the front row down to 5th place. And we've got Pato Ward, the race winner in Hockenheim, out already before turn 1. Now, who ran into him? That'll be a very interesting talking point. And it looked like he swerved across on someone. I couldn't quite tell who it was, but he's lost both his rear wheels, and he's out before turn 1 is Pato Ward. And we'll find out to see who it was. It looks like he moved across on the BAR there, did Pato Ward, and the HRT. So if I was to put a blame on anyone there, it would probably be Pato Ward, or whether it just be a racing incident. But he is out of the race, and that's a body blow to Aris's chances of the team's championship. So Da Costa in the lead then, with Jose Maria Lopez in 2nd place, getting off to a very good start, as does Dixon. Nick de Vries 4th. It's Will Power, Kamui Kobayashi, Luke Browning, Marco Wittmann, who's in 8th, Nicholas Latifi in 9th, and Daniel Youngandea in 10th place. So they are coming round the course. It's a lovely circuit, a brilliant flowing racetrack is Pannonia. We saw some overtaking being done in the League 2 race. Perhaps maybe not as much in the beginning, but when the strategies came into play, we saw a number of overtakes happen. And so far, Antonio Felix da Costa has got to the best of starts, but can get to the end of the race. Something which he hasn't been able to do in the last 4 rounds since he won in Istanbul. And Luke Browning is looking to make his way through past the manor of Kamui Kobayashi, but can't do so. And Nicholas Latifi has just got through on Marco Wittmann for 8th place in the BAR. So Scott Dixon in 3rd place, ahead of Nick de Vries. 2 Minardis in the top 4. Now Minardi aiming to bounce back. Scott Dixon, who's firm favourite to win the title, is hoping to redeem himself after that poor error he made at Hockenheim, of which he crashed out at the Clark curve. Now looking at the rear wing of Kamui Kobayashi, who's in front of Luke Browning, who stood in for Stoffel Van Dorn in Hockenheim. Van Dorn dropping down to a reserve role. We're looking at Scott Dixon, who's behind Jose Maria Lopez in the battle for P2. Lopez, who was brilliant last time out in Hockenheim. He replaced Kamui Kobayashi. And Kobayashi is now back in the car. I think Lopez is in Grosjean's seat for this one. We're on lap 3 of the race. You can see a huge queue of cars is stacking up in the midfield. Now we're looking at Sebastian Bourdais, who's behind the sole surviving arrows of Danny Juncadella, who's back in his car after Adrian Quaife-Hobbs stood in for him in the last few rounds. And there is Antonio Felix da Costa in the race lead, ahead of Lopez by 1.5 seconds. Minardi's reliability issues have been a talking factor during the campaign. Team manager Giacomo Pagliaro putting a lot of the budget on power. Apparently he has been putting it on reliability as well, but even that hasn't been enough to stop the 2 cars from breaking down. Looking at Nick de Vries, who didn't get the best of exits coming out of the last turn, and that might give Will Power the opportunity to go through into turn 1. Something inside but cannot make the move stick. Now looking further back, Sebastian Bramy trying to get through on Nick Yellerly for 13th position. On lap 4, Antonio Felix da Costa still leads. The team's championship up for grabs this season. You could look at one of 5 teams that could win it, including Manor and Arrows, who are 4th and 5th. But it just depends on the likes of Sintake, Leightonhouse and Minardi in regards to their consistency between now and the end of the season. But there's also the relegation fight, which is looking like 3 from 4, but the bottom 3 teams will go down into League 2 next season. And those 3 teams are occupied by AGS, Midland and Forty. All of their cars are towards the back of the field in this one so far. It's unlikely any of them will be getting any points, but one team that could be scoring points as it stands are BAR. And there's a problem for Jay Andrew-Avala in the 40. And that's another problem for Dave Goddard, with his team pointless since the opening race in Malaysia. And it's another engine problem for the team and for Duravala, who's had little to impress so far. But in all honesty, it's not the first time he's retired within the first half a dozen laps. That was the same in Brands Hatch. That's another retirement. Also for Alex Lynn. He's also out of the race. What's happened to Lynn? Has he had an engine problem? I think he has. He's pulled the circuit. He's actually facing the wrong way, you know, is Lynn, which is very, very strange. So he's also out of the race. And it's actually a crash for Alex Lynn. I don't know how exactly he's done that, to be honest with you. I didn't quite see clearly enough what happened involving him. But that is his race over. His teammate Nick Yellerly's running in 12th place. That's 3 retirements from this race now. We're on lap 5 here in Pannonia. There's Jose Maria Lopez in 2nd place. I'm looking further back because Nick de Vries is under threat from Will Power. Power going for the move. We won't do it there. Marco Wittmann's been overtaken by Danny Juncadella now. Juncadella in the arrows up into 9th place. And there is da Costa, who's got the fastest up at the moment, as well as pole position. The pole position point is his. Now we're looking to see Kamui Kobayashi, who's under threat from Luke Browning and Nicholas Latifi. And the other BAR... Oh, Sean Galea was in 14th position. He missed the last race in Hockenheim after he had to serve a race ban for a collision he caused. And we just see an overtake there. I think that was 2 cars passing the Onyx there. Looked like Antonio Froco that got through. Colton Hertz was into the pits with a problem in the AGS. So it's another race to forget so far for Colton Hertz. He has had a torrid season. AGS has been hit reliability issues so far this campaign, and it hasn't got any better for them here. Alex Palou, Hertz's teammate, is outside the top 15. Now we're looking at the races. Galea looks to try and get through on Sebastian Buemi. Behind Galea is Jean-Eric Verne in the Prost. He's been off the pace so far today in comparison to how he got on in Brands Hatch and Hockenheim. And there is Luke Browning. And there is Antonio Felix da Costa in P1. Here's Maria Lopez and his second ahead of Dixon. And Nick de Vries is continuing to drop back a little bit from those two. They're falling further into the clutches of Will Power and the chasing pack as we see Alex Palou lock up in front of Roy Nissany. He was able to get away with it that time. And ahead of Alex Palou, that looks like the Super Aguri of Paul de Resta. Here's another one of those who's been off the pace. As we see Will Power still trying to get through on Nick de Vries, but he just cannot do it at that particular corner of the circuit. I think the pit stops are going to play a huge role in this one. That's a certainty. We saw it in League 2 earlier on, where Tatiana Calderon went a long way on her first stint before she came in, and she made the strategy work. It didn't look possible that she would come out on top, although that was really contributed by Pascal Wehrlein's electrical issues, which forced him into the pits for a third time. But she was able to take command of the race and win out in the end. A brilliant drive by her standards. And I think that's going to play a huge role in how the League 1 race is going to pan out for the drivers here. So Da Costa leads. Lopez is now 4.2 seconds behind him in P2. Dixon third. De Vries, Power, Kobayashi, Browning, Latifi, Junkendaya and Wittmann in the top 10. Robin Frines in P11, Nick Yellerly 12th, and Sebastian Buemi, Sean Galea and Jean-Luc Verne in the top 15 places. Long way to go yet in this one. A lot can change. And you can see Marco Wittmann, who finished in the points last time out in Hockenheim, albeit he got that last point on the basis of Felipe Nasr dropping out in the last lap for Midland. Nevertheless, both Prosts in the points in Hockenheim, they've been in good form in comparison to how they got in the first few rounds. Almost looked like they'd be fighting against relegation, but they seem to be well and truly clear of that now. They're on 61 points, 38 clear of 11th place AGS. And we can see Sebastian Buemi still not able to get through on Nick Yellerly. And this is obviously costing him time. What we don't know for certain yet is which drivers are doing the 2-stop and which are doing the 1. And there is Da Costa. Continuing to pull away. And And De Vries is still under threat from Willpower. As we look at Danny Yunkendaya, who's under threat also from Marco Wittmann. And with the field so close, strategy's certainly going to play a part here in Pannonia. Sean Galeo in front of Jean-Eric Verne, who's in front of what looks like, is that a... It's Nonix of Sebastian Bourdais, who was running a little bit higher earlier in the race, but he's down in 16th place. Naoki Yamamoto 17th. It's Paul de Resta, Roy Nassani, Alex Perot, Antonio Franco, Felipe Nasr and Colton Herter. Now Yamamoto, who was in the Midland earlier on in the season before he was dropped in favour of Rio Haryanto, as we see what looks like Danny Yunkendaya trying to get through there on Nicholas Latifi. He nearly got the job done, but had to back out of it in the end. Now we're looking at Scott Dixon, who's dropped back from Jose Maria Lopez a little bit. Now, is he carrying an issue? Because it doesn't sound like the Simtech is operating as well as it should be. We'll find out in a few moments, maybe the next time when he comes round to complete the lap. There is Lopez running in a strong P2, where he had ended up in Hockenheim in the last round. He's now 1.8 seconds ahead of Dixon. Dixon losing time in the last sector alone, as we see Nick de Vries having to hold off Willpower once more, doing his best to hold him off, but he hasn't been exactly on the same pace as what it was in Hockenheim or in Brands Hatch. There's Nick de Vries. At least the Menards have got through the first 10 laps or so of this one, as we see Alex Palou go for a move on the 40 of Roy Nassani. Can't quite make the move stick. There's Lopez. It looks like he's running wide there on the exit of turn 2, as we look back at Nick Yellerly and Sebastian Buemi into turn number 1. And it looks like Sean Galea fancies his chances of getting through on the Leighton House. But there is Da Costa in the race lead by over 5 seconds over the Argentine Jose Maria Lopez. Dixon keeping up in third. And we've got De Vries, Power, Kobayashi, Browning, Latifi, Yunkendaya and Wittmann in the points. Not too far away from pit stops. You can see Luke Browning attempting to get through on Kobayashi. There's Da Costa completing another lap. Approaching a quarter of the way through here. And there is Alex Palou looking to get through on Roy Nassani again. He's running in 20th place is Alex Palou, 2-time IndyCar champion. There's Sean Galea running in 14th. Ahead of Jean-Eric Verne. He's ahead of Sebastian Bourdais and Naoki Yamamoto. And there is Dixon, who's continuing to drop back from Lopez by the looks of it. As we see Alex Palou running wide and wrecking his front wing. AGS's race is going from bad to worse. Another blow to Lewis Bassendale and to his team. His drivers just simply cannot get through a clean race without any of them being in the wars. They've been in the wars in the last race when Palou had run into Colton Herter, which ruined his race. And Palou retired later on with mechanical gremlins. It's going to be an earlier trip to the pits than desired for Alex Palou, as it has been for Colton Herter in this. Absolute nightmare for the team. And there is Scott Dixon in third position. gap between him and Lopez is 2.3 seconds. And Nick DeFries is further back, as is Will Power, but looking at Luke Byron. Can he get through on Kamui Kobayashi into turn 1? The answer is no. So Mario Lopez in P2 ahead of Scott Dixon. Antonio Felix da Costa carrying on his way. 2-time race winner this season. He won in Yongam and he won in Istanbul. He also won for Super Aguri in Hockenheim last season. He has yet to score or finish a race since he won in Istanbul. But da Costa. Is Nicholas Latifi ahead of Junkadea, Wittmann and Freins. There's Yelly holds up Buemi and Galeo. Jean-Luc Verne is running in 15th position. And there is da Costa. It's nearly 7 seconds up the road. As you see, Will Power going for it on Nick DeFries, but he still cannot find a way through. And Freins is into the pits for his first stop of the race. I believe that's a scheduled pit stop for him. So at least he'll get some clean air when he comes out. So he'll rejoin in 21st place, Will Freins. Now, Lopez is 2.5 seconds clear of Dixon in the battle for second place. But he's still continuing to drop back from the race leader, Antonio Felix da Costa. Interesting to see what strategies each of the drivers are going to be on. Although I would expect most of them to be on the 2. There is Paul di Resta ahead of Roy Nissany. This is the battle for 17th position. Behind Nissany is Nazar and Froco. Behind the trio. Da Costa on his own. We've seen the car duck it into the pit lane. That might be Luke Browning, who's just headed in. So he's going in for another set of tyres and fuel. Jean-Luc Verne also heading for pit road. See Roy Nissany looking to go for it on Paul di Resta into turn 1. Can't get through still. Yamamoto coming into the pits in the Midland. Here's Dixon in 3rd place, behind Lopez. As the pair make their way through. Here's Galeo, who's now in 12th, behind Buemi and Yelali. Now, I'm going to be seeing any of the leaders come in for a pit stop. Well, da Costa's carried on for another lap. And I believe someone's just ducked into the pits. That'll be Nicholas Latifi and Marco Wittmann, who are both in. Buemi not able to get through. Oh, sorry, that's not Buemi. That's Sean Galeo. I keep thinking Buemi was in a BAR for some reason, from where he was the previous 2 seasons. But he's in a Leighton house now, is the Swiss. We're on lap 16 of this race. Da Costa's lead is 8.2 seconds. Dixon another 2.7 seconds back from the Argentinian. There we see Da Costa coming through towards the end of another lap. Da Costa running away with it, over 8 seconds clear over everyone else. Don't know what strategy he's on as of yet. It could be a one-stop, but I can tell you also that someone has ducked into the pit lane, and that is Danny Unkandea in the Arrows. Shongaleo also in. Scott Dixon there in 3rd place behind Lopez, as Luke Browning posts a new fastest up of the race, a 1:28.5, so only just a few seconds off Antonio Froco. Da Costa continuing on, as Yamamoto slows with a problem in the Midlands, so his return is going to end in retirement. At least he hasn't been involved in anyone else's incidents this time. Yamamoto pulls out of the race with a gearbox issue. And Midland are looking doomed. Falling further and further to the League One trapdoor. We see Luke Browning, who's now behind Antonio Froco. So they're coming towards the end of the lap that they are on. And Sebastian Bourdais is into the pits in the Onyx. So they all come round to complete the lap. Da Costa, he's on lap 18. Running away at the moment. As Wittmann closes in on Latifi and Unkandea in the battle for P13. It's been a brilliant drive so far from Da Costa, but will it be enough for him to get to the checker flag in 1st place? Cycle Charge has taken a bad dent. He's already 70 points off the championship lead. With only 6 races left, including this one. He's already taken the pole position point. The fast lap point is currently in the hands of Luke Browning. Da Costa has yet to stop in this race, so he could possibly still get it back later on. Mario Lopez in 2nd, continuing to extend the margin between him and Dixon. There's Browning, under threat from the Super Guru behind him, nearly veered into the path of Frines there. But thankfully they didn't make contact. There's Browning finally getting through on Froco. He lost a little bit of time being stuck behind him. Now he'll want to get through on Frines very quick. Not Frines, sorry, that's De Resta. But Browning's looking to get through very, very quickly too. He's up the inside already, and he is through on the Scot. And Browning's got 15 seconds to make up on the next driver in front, and that's Sebastian Buemi, who's looking like he's going to be doing the one stop. De Resta ahead of Antonio Frocco. Ahead of Frines, ahead of Yunkendaya, ahead of Latifi, ahead of Wittmann. Here's De Resta in the points. Needs to go on the one stop. Four drivers out of the race so far. Naoki Yamamoto is out, along with Alex Lynn, J.N. Duravala and Pato Award. We've just seen an overtake from Sean Galeo on Jean-Luc Verne for 16th place. There is Da Costa crossing over the line, and behind him, that's one of the AGSs of which he's lapped. I think that's Colton Herter, if I'm mistaken, or it might be Alex Player, I can't quite tell from the helmet. And that tells you how AGS's race is going at the moment. Antonio Frocco in 11th place behind Paul De Resta. Luke Brown is already pulling away from De Resta. Since he's got by him, he's extending the margin by over 5 seconds. That tells you how quick Luke Brown has been today so far. And we have seen Antonio Frocco up the inside of the Super Aguri of Paul De Resta, but to no avail, he cannot get through. So the Onyx will have to wait back for a little bit longer. We've seen Nicholas Latifi get through on Daniel Yunkendaya, who looks like he's carrying an issue because Marco Wittmann has got through very easily as well. So Wittmann's taking advantage of the open door there to get through. So Arrow's not having a good race compared to what they had in Hockenheim. Buemi is still stuck behind Yellowly. He's had a promising couple of races, as well as this one, since he made his debut in Brands Hatch. Adrian Suter was in the car before he was given the demotion. And there's De Resta heading up a long queue of cars. Whilst we discuss there, we're looking at Scott Dixon, who are on board, chasing after Jose Maria Lopez. Gap is now 3.2. And now we're looking at Antonio Frocco looking to get through as we look at the tussling going on further back. Seems like they've all got through there safe and sound, although Yunkendaya is under threat from the BAR of Sean Galeo. It's going to be interesting later on when Da Costa and those at the head of the field come up to lap these cars, as it could play a role in the race result. There is Lopez in second place, 11 seconds off the lead. And Luke Browning, who's in 9th place, is now already 11 seconds clear of Paul De Resta. And that tells you how far off the pace Paul De Resta has been today. It's Nick Yellow in P7 ahead of Buemi. Antonio Frocco up the inside. Also, there was the BAR trying to get through. That was Latifi trying to get through on Frines. And Junkendaya is through on Fitman further back. Junkendaya back through ahead of the German. And the long battle is going to go on for quite some time. An engine problem for Koltenherter. Season pull off the track and retiring yet again. It's just going from bad to worse for AGS this season. I think they can have little to complain if they do go down. Two good drivers in an inferior car. So that's the 5th driver to retire from this race. Tony Felix da Costa still in the lead by nearly 12 seconds over Lopez. And the number of cars behind De Resta. So you've got De Resta there. Can't quite tell how many I'm counting. There's at least 7 or 8. And Paul De Resta is almost a whole minute off the race lead. And we've seen... I think we just saw a change in position there for a moment. Although I might be mistaken. I can tell you that Luke Brown has got the gap down between him and Buemi to 5.5 seconds. And extended the margin over De Resta to more than 15. And that's what a pit stop can actually do for you around this circuit. Two-stop could well be the way to go, just depends on how well he can make up the time. And Will Power is still stuck behind Nick de Vries in the battle for 4th position. None of the top 5 have come into the pits yet. And I'm counting 9 cars in the queue at the moment, although Sebastian Buemi he's in the pits now, and he's going to come out probably at the back of the whole queue. Buemi's going to have a lot of work to do from here on in if he's to salvage anything from this race. It's not been the best of races for Leighton House again. They've really struggled. In fact, they haven't scored a point in the last 3 races. Will Power running up there in 5th place. Looks to be on course to salvage something. The 4 seconds between Yellowling in 7th and Browning in 8th. As we look at Sebastian Bourdais almost pulling out to get through on Jean-Luc Verne. There's Dixon in 3rd place, over 3 seconds behind Lopez. He's further up ahead. Antonio Felix da Costa doing a tremendous job so far, 25 laps in. There's another half race distance away from victory. Can both Minardis get to the end of the race? As we see Da Costa come round to complete lap 26, 13 seconds clear of Lopez. Looking very, very, very good. You needing to worry about what's going on behind. All he needs to do is just keep his eyes forward. Now Lopez. It's a long time since he's failed to finish a Grand Prix World Series race that he's competed in. He had a brilliant end to the season in League 2 with Eurobrunt, despite the fact that he never picked up a victory. Came close to doing so in Hockenheim. The victory seems like a long shot, but you never know. But second place will most certainly do for him. At least give Mano a chance of maybe not the Drivers' Championship, but certainly the Teams' Championship. But it looks as though it's going to be either Minardi, Simtek or Leightonhouse coming away with a victory today. Although if anything does happen to Da Costa up front, then it's very much Lopez's race to lose. Da Costa started lap 28. He's not stopped yet. The gap between Yellowly and Browning is 1.1 seconds. All that time that Browning's made up since he got past Aresta tells you about the pace that Simtek have. Lopez. And we've just seen someone duck into the pits there. Couldn't quite tell who that is. It's Marco Wittmann, who's coming in for the second time. I don't actually blame him for doing that. Oh, there's a bit of a collision there further back. Couldn't quite tell what happened. Now, was there contact? It definitely didn't look like an engine problem or anything like that. So looking at Yukindeo, who got up the inside of the BAR, and he actually makes contact with the BAR. Does Yukindeo. Now, he didn't go through ahead of him. I would say that's probably going to go down as a racing incident. No further action yet. I think that's fair enough, because Latifi kept hold of the place after the contact was made. As we can see, Ryan Asani running wide in the 40. So Wittmann down a lap now on Da Costa, but at least he's got an opportunity to complete an undercut on those drivers up ahead, who are fighting at the moment towards the bottom end of the points. And we are seeing Lopez, who I think is about to be unlapped. I think he just put a lap on the Midland of Felipe Nasr after Nasr came out of the pits. There's Galeo in 14th. As we see Lopez. He's going to be under 30. He's lost time because he's been having to tussle with the Midland of Felipe Nasr. We've seen another car or two go into the pits. That's Nicholas Latifi who's headed in. And Sebastian Bourdais. There's Da Costa. And Will Power, believe it or not, is still fighting it out with Nick de Vries, and they are both over half a minute off the race lead. They're literally a pit stop behind Antonio Felix da Costa. We have seen Felipe Nasr harassing Jose Maria Lopez, desperate to get back on the lead lap. It won't be too long before we start seeing the leaders come in for their stops. And Luke Browning comes in for the second time in this race. Made up all that time since he got through on Di Resta. He was over 20 seconds clear of him before he came in. He's not going to get out in front of him, I don't think. He's going to fall down quite a few positions, I'd have thought. He's in 12th place now, just ahead of Buemi, who has only just pitted. We can see a move there from Danny Ogunde, who's got through on Robin Frines and up into the points. And there's a problem for Nick Yellerly in the HRT, so it looks like he's going to be joining his teammate on the sidelines. That's a shame there for the Brit, because he was running so well again. It's good news for those further down the order who have been fighting amongst themselves, but HRT are going to be coming away with no points from Hungary. I'll promote Paul Di Resta, Antonio Froco and Danny Ogunde up positions. Robin Frines as well. Antonio Felix da Costa still in the race lead. He is going to be coming up to back markers very, very shortly. There's Jose Maria Lopez, who's still being chased by Felipe Nasr. As we see Danny Ogunde up the inside of Antonio Froco. Can he do it into turn 1? He can't quite do it into turn 1. And Robin Frines looks to get through on Ogunde, and he gets through himself. So he goes past. Does the Super Aguri driver. And behind Ogunde is the fast charging Luke Browning. He's having the race of his life so far, believe it or not. And we're looking at Ryan Asani there, who runs wide but stays on the track. And Browning is ahead of Frines, because Frines has just also been overtaken by Buemi, Palou and Verne. I think Frines is carrying an issue here. And he's off the circuit, is Frines, and he's out of the race. So Frines goes from this one. So bouncing across the gravel and then grass, and Frines is pulling out with a gearbox issue. So there's another driver out of this. On lap 32, Antonio Felix da Costa's lead is 19.5 seconds over Jose Maria Lopez. Dixon third. De Vries and Power are in the top 5 as well. Kobayashi is in 6th place in the second manner. Da Costa is not having to deal with too many back markers at the moment, as we see Alex Palou head for the pits in the AGS. And Luke Browning is stuck behind Ogunde now. And the second Midland of Felipe Nasr is going to be dropping out as well. They're beginning to drop out like flies here. And Alex Johnston is very much beginning to lose confidence in the team at the moment, with relegation continuing to loom large on this squad. So Felipe Nasr joins his teammate Naoki Yamamoto on the sidelines, and they are both out of the race. Da Costa and Lopez are in the pits for their only stops of the race, and that allows Scott Dixon to take over leadership for now. De Vries will go through. Da Costa has come back out ahead of De Vries in second position. With the clear track he'll have ahead of him, he'll have the chance to take back the fast start point from Luke Browning. It's Dixon. The gap between Dixon and DaCosta is 6 seconds as Podesta finally comes in, as do Antonio Franco and Daniel Candela. Fitman may be able to go up a few positions, considering that he'd be on the fresher tyres. So both Prosts in the points now, Verne 9th and Fitman 10th. And DaCosta closing in on Dixon. He's on his outlap, remember, although Dixon's in the pits now. So DaCosta goes back into the lead. And there's Ryan Nissany, who will need to get out of the way of DaCosta, which he does so. De Vries also comes in. Kobayashi heading into pit road from 4th place. As we see, Will Power sliding around. He's able to keep the car pointing the right way. It looks like he was going to drop it completely there. He's the Australian. Almost performing a bit of Tokyo Drift whilst he was at it. But Will Power is coming round now. He was behind De Vries before the pit stops had begun. He pitted in sooner, but is he able to get out in front of De Vries as he exit the pit lane? I don't think he's in front of him. Oh, he is in front of him. He's in front of him now, is Will Power, luckily. But that slide will have hurt the tyres a little bit, and that may give Nick De Vries a chance later. Luke Brown in 6th place now. Sebastian Buemi is 8th in the Leighton House, so both Leighton House cars are in the points, as are the 2 Prosts. So we've got 2 Minardis, 2 Manners, 2 Simtex. We'll just run it through this way. 2 Minardis, 2 Manners, 2 Simtex, 2 Leighton House cars, and 2 Prosts. So we've only got, at the moment, 5 teams that are going to be scoring points in this League 1 race, which is rather unusual. There's Lopez in 2nd with 15 laps remaining. And he's got the fastest up of the race now as Lopez. Very encouraging to see. And the gap between DaCosta and Lopez is 21 seconds. DaCosta 15 laps away from his 3rd win of the campaign. Put an end to his run of non-finishers. 18 drivers left in the race now. Ryan Nissany, who's just behind DaCosta on the road, is running in 18th and last place. Scott Dixon, and the fast up of the race has now gone back in favour of Antonio Felix da Costa. 127.9 for him. Pulling out all the stops, wanting to get every point possible. With all the stops more or less completed then, as far as the championship is concerned, the fact that Pato Award crashed out is going to play into the hands of Scott Dixon. Nick De Vries, who's running in 5th place, is going to be going up into 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship. But the gap between Dixon and De Vries at the moment is going to be 49 points with 5 races left. And Antonio Felix da Costa's win, as well as the points for pole position and fastest lap, is going to move him on to 83 points. He'll move in front of Romain Grosjean and Will Power. And Jean-Luc Vergne is into the pits for the 2nd time in this race. So his 9th place is going to see him tumble all the way down to the bottom end of the field. May even get lapped by Antonio Felix da Costa if he's unlucky. So Wittmann goes up to 9th. Latifi in the final points paying position in 10th. Things could start to get quite interesting in the closing stages. You know, if any of the top drivers get into some form of trouble, may leave the door open for those at the bottom end of the points to actually move up. Showing it Vernon falling out of the points. At least he'll be on fresher tyres. I don't know if I'll have enough clear track to try and go for the fast lap. Luke Browning is running in 7th place behind Kamui Kobayashi. It's a 22 second gap between Da Costa and Lopez, so if Da Costa was to encounter an issue, he'll fall to 3rd place behind Dixon, but he will... We saw this from Pascal Wehrlein in the League 2 race, where all of a sudden he had an electrical issue, and even though he had the time to catch, he just didn't have the pace. So Da Costa will not want to push too hard by any means, and be forced to make another pit stop. And there's Da Costa, who's very much beginning to get through back markers now. There is Scott Dixon, who's running in 3rd position. Another podium finish to add to his tally. Well, as we discussed about the Drivers' Championship, the Teams' Championship, in terms of the situation with that, is that Minardi, with getting a 1st and a 5th, which would net them 35 points, as well as the points for pole position and fast lap, they will go on to 183. Leitenhauser are on course to get 16. On to 169, and Simtek but on course to get 21. They'll go on to 183 as well. So in fact, Simtek and Minardi will be tied on points, but Minardi will have won more races than Simtek. As for Munner, with Lopez on course for 2nd place and Kobayashi in 6th, they'll give them 28 points. They will go in front of Arrows, and they'll close to within Leitenhouse a little bit, but they'll still have some work to do in the remaining races. In terms of the battle to beat the drop, BAR will pull further clear of AGS by a point, with Nicholas Latifi in 10th place. As for Prost, they'll pick up another couple of points, which will put them further clear of the drop. They won't go up a position in the standings, but at least it's still a fairly decent result for Marco Wittmann. Just totally justified after the pace he had shown in qualifying. We have Antonio Felix da Costa in the lead at the moment. And whilst we discuss about what's going on here in Pannonia, just want to mention about the calendar for next season. And provisionally we've got Jacarapaguá in Brazil, Buenos Aires in Argentina, which is one of the 5 venues that is sticking around from Season 3. As we can see, Juncadella getting through on Pol de Resta. Then we go to Monterrey, and then Barber in the US. Montjuic in Spain. Dijon-Bourgogne, Mugello, which is another new venue. Nürburgring, Istanbul. Parnu in Estonia. Anderstorp, Zhuhai in China. Autopolis, Yongan, Sepang, and Service Paradise in Australia. Now you can see DaCosta getting through on De Resta to lap. Behind De Resta is Froco and Palou. At least Palou's managed to get himself back in the mix after needing to pit in for a front wing. But DaCosta looking ever so close to victory, but remember we saw it in Misano where he was cruising to victory with only 5 laps to go and the rear suspension gave up on him. And victory went to Simtek and Scott Dixon that day. He cannot afford to have another one of those days. And so Maria Lopez ahead of Dixon. "20 seconds is the gap." And DaCosta is coming up behind Danny Unkandea, who was in his first race back after sitting out the last few rounds whilst Adrian Quay-Fobbs was in the seats. Tony Foucault 15th. And behind him is Alex Palou and Jean-Eric Verne. Ryan Asani just in the background there in 18th position. He'll just want this race to be over soon enough. 40 are not going to be coming away with points again, which will be 10 races in a row without a point. We go back to Lopez, who's nearly 5 seconds clear of Dixon. Manor will be very happy with this as Unkandea stays out of the way of DaCosta without trying to battle it out with him too much. So that's another car to lap. See De Resta ahead of Palou, who's got through on Bourdais. There's Jean-Luc Verne right behind. So not got too long left in this one as Verne goes for a move on Froco into turn 1. Can't quite make the move stick. Further up front we can see Alex Palou behind Paul De Resta. There we can see Palou. Not Palou, sorry, Lopez, who's running in second. He's not got any back markers to deal with just yet. Scott Dixon running in P3. He'll be happy with this result. It'll help him further clear the gap. Looking very good to wrap up the title. He could even do it with a couple of rounds to spare, maybe even 3 if he's lucky enough. Whilst he wants to do well for himself, it will help Simtek's chances in the Teams Championship. Like I say, as it stands with the positions as they are, Minardi will take over leadership in the Teams Championship on countback. Here's Palou looking for a move again there on DeResta. He can't do it. There's Lopez in second place. Through turns 1 and 2. Riding the curbs. And DaCosta going through on the Onyx of Sebastian Bourdais. Powell will be very relieved to be ahead of Nick de Vries after being frustrated behind him, as we saw Kobayashi run wide there at turn 3, luckily to not damage the car as he took a quick ride on the grass. And DaCosta with 5 laps to go. Looking back to Antonio Franco, still not able to get through on Alex Palou. And Jean-Luc Verne will be frustrated behind him. The drivers have got another new circuit to look forward to next time out in Valencia. As I mentioned before, earlier in the broadcast, Valencia will be the last European race of the season. DaCosta continuing on. Ahead of him are the 2 BARs of Nicholas Latifi and Sean Gallao. DaCosta continuing on his way, looking very, very good for victory here. It'll be 3 for the campaign, 4 for his career. If you want to include the one he won for Super Aguri in Hockenheim in Season 2. Now, he did win on the road at Laguna Seca last season, but a 30-second time penalty for causing the collision with Scott Dixon at the beginning of the race had cost him victory, and that went to Romain Grosjean. And there is Lopez, looking good for another good result. Four laps remaining here in Pannonia. It's going to be a first and a fifth for Minardi, which they'll have taken at the beginning, considering their reliability woes, but the race is not over yet though. It can still change between now and the checkered flag. DaCosta's going to be coming up to the battling BARs very, very shortly. But luckily for him, there are not many laps left. We go to Dixon, who's in 3rd place, and we go to Sean Gallao very quickly as he looks to pull off an overtake on Nicholas Latifi into turn 1, and he cannot do it there. So he stays behind for now, does Gallao. And Franco, who's running in 16th position, trying to get through on Palou this time around. He cannot do it still, and that might open the door for Verne to take advantage. But he's not able to get through either, unfortunately. And Palou running wide there on the exit of turn number 3. Now, he did that already in the race. He won't want to do it again. Very nearly there now. All the drivers will be classified as finishers, depending on where they actually finish. That's what matters now as Da Costa pulls, gets through on Sean Galeo. It's a lap. And the next driver he'll want to get through is Nicholas Latifi. Marco Wittmann, a few seconds up the road, will be very happy with his 9th place. He's had a tricky few races as Wittmann, but at least he'll bounce back with a couple of points. He finished in the point also in Hockenheim with a 10th place. And a lonely race in Brands Hatch, and the round before that in Dijon-Bourgogne. He brought his car home with a sensational 4th place. And there is Antonio Franco up the inside of Alex Blow, and he finally gets through on the Spaniard. And that's good enough to go up into 15th place. At least that's some consolation for the Italian. And what's been a rather difficult race for him. Da Costa gets through on Nicholas Latifi there. Is that an engine failure up ahead? Or was that just the barrier of which I saw? I think that was just the barrier which I had just seen there. But we haven't got long left in this race now as Lopez gets a lap done on Roy Nassani. Not making it easy there for Lopez to get through. And Antonio Da Costa has started the final lap now. Looking very good for victory. And I cannot see him encountering any issues in the final 4.5 kilometres. Sebastian Bourdais ahead of Danny Unkandea, both of which are a lap down. And Dixon in P3 will extend his championship lead. It's Nick de Vries who will go into 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship after Pato Award crashed out at the very beginning before turn 1. But I want to go back to the race leader because Antonio Da Costa is about to end his hoodoo with maximum points here in Hungary. And what a drive it has been from the Portuguese. No mistakes from start to finish. He's coming up behind Marco Wittmann, but he won't need to worry about him. The Minardi crew are out on the pit wall. Team manager Giacomo Pagliaro will be ready to celebrate. Antonio Da Costa wins the League One Pannonia Grand Prix. What a drive, what a race for Minardi after the disaster of Germany. They have rebounded with hunger to win in Hungary. Jose Maria Lopez comes home in 2nd place ahead of Scott Dixon. Dixon extends his lead in the Drivers' Championship now. And further back is Will Power in the Leighton House, who ends his run of non-finishers with a 4th place finish ahead of Nick de Vries, who goes up into 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship. And with that result, Minardi now tie with Simtek at the top of the team's championship, but are ahead on countback. Kamui Kobayashi brings his manor home in 6th place, and Luke Browning in his 2nd race for Simtek gets his 1st Grand Prix World Series points in 7th. Sebastian Boemi 8th and Marco Wittmann in 9th picks up a couple of points for Prost and is the last driver on the lead lap. Nicholas Latifi bags an important point for BAR in 10th place and is a lap down. It's victory for Antonio Da Costa for Minardi in Pannonia. Congratulations to him and to the team. What a way to bounce back. Jose Maria Lopez second for the second race running, ahead of Scott Dixon and Will Power. Nick de Vries fifth, ahead of Kamui Kobayashi and Luke Browning. Sebastian Buemi, Marco Wittmann and Nicholas Latifi, the last of those in the points. In 11th is Sean Galeo ahead of Sebastian Bourdais, Danny Uncadeo in 13th ahead of Paul Di Resta, Antonio Froco, Jean-Luc Verne, Alex Palou and Roy Nissany are all the rest of those to finish the race. Felipe Nasser retired with engine problems. Robin Fines also out with gearbox trouble ahead, as well as Nick Yellowly, Colton Herter, Naoki Yamamoto, Alex Lynn, who crashed out in the early stages, Joan Duavola also out with mechanical gremlins. Pato Award crashed out at the very beginning before turn 1. Antonio Felix da Costa comes away with the points for fast lap and for pole position. It's a brilliant day for Minardi and for team manager Giacomo Pagliaro. They are very much back in contention in the championship. The Drivers' Championship may be a bit of a long shot at the moment, but the Teams' Championship is very much hotting up in favour of them and for Simtek. Leighton House are still right in there, as well as Manor. But you have to say, this championship is going to go quite a bit of a distance, isn't it? Pannonia has put on quite a bit of a show in the Grand Prix World Series for the first time. And now it's time for Topher Smith to run down the championship standings. And I'll speak to you next time out in Valencia in Spain.
A great result today for the Minardi team as Antonio Felix da Costa takes another victory and moves himself back into contention for this championship fight. Looking at the standings, Scott Dixon has extended his points advantage, now on 141 points, with Nick de Vries second on 92. But the Minardi showing all the pace it needs to be able to fight, not just for the teams but for the drivers as well, with only a few rounds left to go. Pato Award drops down to third with a non-score today. Antonio Felix da Costa has moved up to fourth with his victory on 83 points. Will Power is fifth on the Leighton House on 76. Roman Grosjean not racing today, sixth in the Manor. Sebastian Buemi seventh for Leighton House. Kamui Kobayashi on his return, still eighth on 45. Alex Lynn ninth on 44, and Paul Di Resta rounds out the top 10 of the League One driver standings on 42 points. Looking at the teams, it is currently a tie between Minardi and Simtek, both on 183 points each. Minardi ahead on Camback at the moment by virtue of 5 victories to Simtek's 2. Leighton House drops to third on 169 points, 14 off the lead of both Minardi and Simtek. Manor move ahead of Arrows with Lopez's podium today, 141 points for the British team. Arrows still on 116 after a no score today. Super Guri 6th on 78, ahead of HRT on 72, Prost on 63, Onyx on 55, and BAR on 30. That's the top 10 in the League One team standings. And then still risking demotion into League Two, AGS on 23, Midland on 14, and 40 Corsi on 6. Well, it's been another thrilling encounter in the Grand Prix World Series today. Thank you all for tuning in. Next time out, we will be racing on the streets of Valencia. That promises to be another incredible affair as we look to get these championships decided in the remaining few races of the season. Until then, take care. My name's Topher Smith. It's been a pleasure hosting this once again for you, and we'll see you soon.